Although talking about Chelsea, the other
Yeah.
people that were in, I don't think they will at all be upset that they got Koulibaly for 34 million pounds. He's 31, so obviously he's on the wrong side of his peak, but we know that center backs can perform well into their 30s. I also think he's flat out been one of the best center backs in the world the past couple of years in terms of just consistency.
Yeah.
Guys like De Ligt, even Ruben Dias have kind of been going up and down. I think Chelsea with their moves, they kind of do this all the time where they kind of seem, especially when they had that transfer ban, it seemed like they're going to kind of slow down and do a bit of a rebuild. But I think Raheem Sterling, Koulibaly, even Conor Gallagher coming in, and then if they sign someone like Koundé or Frankie de Jong, like they are right back in the Champions League race. I think, everyone knows my thoughts on Raheem Sterling, but like, if you're going to start him, I think although he's going to guarantee you some head shake moments, he's going to guarantee you goals. Him, Havertz, Werner, it feels like an attack that could kind of flop, but it also feels like it could be one of the best front threes in the world next year. So, yeah. And on the defensive side of things, that we saw an exodus at center back this summer, but I don't know. I think it could be kind of like scrap the whole thing down and start again. And if they get, Koulibaly, now that they've moved on from Nathan Ake, if they're moving into Koulibaly territory and now Koundé, like they could be a sneaky threat.
It's interesting. I like the move. I don't think I'm as high on it as you are. Obviously for the price, it's a steal for them, really, given the money that Napoli's been asking for in years past, like upwards of 100 million when Liverpool and United and I think City were linked for a while. All of them have been interested. I think he'll do well. I do wonder when a player his age comes to the Premier League, I think you have to ask the question at least. They obviously have one of the best examples of that not being a factor in Thiago Silva. But I do think, particularly given that their defense is going to be in such, total flux, where you have Mendy, who has been consistently playing for them, but I think it isn't unfair to say he's taken a step back from being in conversations with Alisson and Ederson as one of the best goalkeepers in the league. He's more back in a tier or two below them. And then really Reece James is the only consistent player if it's a back four who will be in that back four with him. Thiago Silva, I'm sure, will play, but he won't be starting every game at his age. And whoever the new center back is will obviously also be new to the team. And then you have to pencil in Ben Chilwell at left back, and he's obviously been at the club for a year. A year. Or was it 2?
It's 2.
2, wow. But there you go. But he's been injured for so much of that it isn't the same as Reece James sort of walking back into the team. So, like I said, I think it's a good signing. I agree with you that I think he'll likely succeed in the Premier League, but I do think it's not risk-free, particularly given the state of their defense. And obviously, Tuchel's a great defensive coach, so maybe that he just kind of papers over those cracks. But I will be really curious to see what it looks like. If best case for Chelsea, just to watch Koulibaly be immense in the Premier League, and I don't think it'll be this, but worst case, I think that could be a really chaotic defense next year. But that's only in a very bad circumstance.
Yeah, like it always is at Chelsea, it's a summer a merry-go-round of transfers. So it is like you kind of, especially this summer with the defense, you're right. Like they're banking on a lot of moves working. So, but I just feel like they're not really like, it's not like they're buying like the summer when they bought a bunch of young guys and they're expecting to develop them, or like injury prone guys. Sterling's pretty injury prone. I don't know. It feels like they're kind of just taking a step up from being like, when they won the Champions League, I think they were in that conversation right before Man City and Liverpool. Whereas this year, I think they kind of took a step back. Obviously they had some blunders with Lukaku and stuff like that, but like, I wasn't really worried about them this year. Whereas next year, it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if, they're just like 3rd or 4th and like, don't really challenge City or Liverpool, but like, if the stars align, I rate Thomas Tuchel as a manager. And I think especially if they can get the best out of their attack, like Havertz and Sterling, like that could be a dangerous combination.
Yeah, they're perpetually a team that It wouldn't surprise me if they really challenged City and Liverpool for top two, or if they collapsed and finished sixth. I mean, I always think that with the number of just the sheer volume of players that they have, I mean, at some point you have to think they'll get some discontent in the locker room, but it hasn't happened yet. I just mean in terms of list the number of, I don't know, young midfielders that are on that team that aren't being loaned out. In terms of Gallagher, Loftus-Cheek, Hudson-Odoi, Pulisic, and those are sort of just more the fringe ones who aren't actually starting. So um, ultimately, in years past, it usually works out that they just have incredible depth, and sort of, you'll get a hat trick from Christian Pulisic one game, and then he won't play for a month, and that seems to work for them. So who am I to criticize? But I do just always sort of have this niggling feeling with Chelsea that at some point the cracks are going to show. But like I said, Koulibaly is a good signing. Reece James is a good player. Mendy's hit high heights. Like, I think you're right. I have faith in Tuchel as well. So this easily and probably more likely will be an incredibly solid defense next year.